which Charles likes to call the Parliament of
Parliament.
Papas.
Owls are wise, and they're called a parliament.
That's right. So, in this one, we're going to talk about what classic movies should never be remade.
Oh, man. Are you kidding me?
There's so many, but...
Yeah.
How about A Star Was Born? Let's start there. We've had like 5 iterations of that. A Star Was Born.
A Star
Oh,
Was
yeah.
Born.
We're done with that. We're done.
There's like 4 or 5 of those.
And they all win Oscars, though, dude. Like, they all end up because Hollywood loves to talk about themselves.
They do. And the music is pretty good in all of them.
Yeah.
So
it's okay. Yeah. You're right. There's been a bunch of those. Gone in 60 Seconds has been done twice, but that's one you could do more than once. That's not fair because cars keep getting cooler. No, wait, maybe not. That's probably the wrong thing.
All of them.
All of them. I mean, let's go with the ones we know, right? Back to the Future, don't redo it. Indiana Jones, don't redo it.
That's what I'm saying. I would take a different tack. I think Back to the Future could be done in a different way, and that I've said it that way to say, it's like, look, we need to be very clear. This is not the one you loved and grew up with. We're going to modernize it. We're going to take it in a little bit different direction and still have some fun with it.
Yeah, let's go back to the 90s.
That's fair, but that's a time travel movie. That's not Back to the Future, right? I can get on board with time travel.
Back to the Future, but when timelines actually matter. That's
like, I liked Hot Tub Time Machine enough, that was cool. But yeah, the literal plot, no, not twice. Plus, it wouldn't fly today. Kids couldn't handle the whole date your mom thing. They just get upset.
Dude, I actually went to. They couldn't handle terrorists in a van trying to steal plutonium.
True, yeah.
I could barely handle that when it came out. I was like, what? I can get shot at the mall? What's going on?
That's a good point. Yeah, we got some. It's a different world now. Yeah, don't do that again. Casablanca, don't do that one again. Let that one stay classic.
Yeah.
I was going to say, go Vito.
Here's one that's just like when we're doing this, I'm trying to think of like movies that I'll like watch perpetually year after year, and like what doesn't need it because it just lives on. Princess Bride, I think, is one that's just like that's a story. I feel like you might like you because of the way technology is. You could be like, oh, we can do that bigger and better, but it's like you don't need to. That's a movie I watch.
A sequel would be good. So they made a sequel to The Labyrinth, and it's if you go in expecting what The Labyrinth did, which is what I did, it didn't quite hit right. But if you go back and watch it as it's not just a sequel to the story, it's a spiritual successor. It's saying Jim Henson, but it's like a more modern telling, but in a different way. So you don't hit The Labyrinth, right? I think that would work, for what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
You don't do Princess Bride, but you do obviously some other story that's similar to it in the same vein of how they told the story. So we go, oh, you didn't mess with our childhood, but we like what you maybe did with it going forward. But it has to be very, very important. I was going to say Jaws, Hugh. I was definitely going to say Jaws.
Yeah, leave that alone. But the Princess Bride thing. Oh, go ahead, Vito.
Oh no. So I was just gonna say, I feel like the Big Shark movie, like you're not redoing Jaws, but like the Meg has a bunch of iterations now, and it's just like let's just throw Jason Statham with a giant CGI shark.
Sharknado.
Cool.
Why not? Jason Statham, let's fill in the blank. Let's put Jason Statham with some Twinkies. It'll work. There's
Twinkies.
There's a radio. There's a clip out there from Jason Statham on some English radio station, and they were telling this guy, like, "Hey, you do a great impression of Jason Statham. Do that." He's like, "Don't do that to me because you never want to do the impression to the actor." And of course, Jason Statham's like, "Just do it." And he goes, "I can only do it in this way." You're in a movie. It's called The Librarian, and you're the librarian, and he goes into the Jason Statham voice. He's like, "All you blokes had to do was keep your voice down, and now because of the late fees, I'm going to have to tell you." And Jason Statham's just doing it, laughing his butt off. Would you not watch that? Jason Statham as a librarian. We just watched Beekeeper, for crying out loud. Come on.
Yeah, take my money. I'm in.
My wife mentions Lord of the Rings. I think that trilogy is fantastic, and I completely agree with that. The
I
one
mean,
that I
some
was
could argue it shouldn't have been made in the first place, but sure.
only idiots.
Yeah, it was a good movie. Like, I was never going to read those books because I can't get past flipping Tom Bombadil. So the movies was the only way I would ever consume it.
And they took
It.
Tom Bombadil out.
Again, the only way I would be able to handle it is if I could get past flipping Tom Bombadil.
I think we need a remastered edition with Jar Jar Binks as Tom Bombadil. That'd be.
Oh, yeah. I'd watch that.
What else, Joe?
Oh man, The Goonies.
Oh,
Goonies.
yeah.
I don't think they should ever remake that.
But again, a
So
sequel.
good.
A sequel where see we're in that generation, right? We're in this magical
I don't-
generation of movie making where real time has passed and we can do real time has passed movies. And I think it would be interesting. I don't know. I mean, maybe not. It maybe wouldn't be, but you sound like
See,
you definitely hate it.
I don't know where they would go with that, but yeah.
So I don't know if this is it's one of those things where somebody makes a fake poster and throws it around and acts like it's real, but apparently there's a Goonies poster flying around the internet
Yeah,
for
I
a
heard
return that Steven Spielberg signed off on. I haven't validated this. I haven't read it anywhere, but I've seen it a handful of places, and I'm like, maybe? Because they talked about it for years, right?
I follow up to the cult classic 80s adventure movie has finally been given the green light, in quotes, according to The Sun. The plan is to start developing the ideas for the follow up next summer with a possible release date of 2026 or 2027.
Developing ideas doesn't necessarily mean like they're gonna make it. They would have to be real. Like, okay, so talking about movies that waited a long time and then managed to stick the landing. Top Gun 2, Top Gun Maverick was flipping great. And then Bill and Ted was another one that I didn't expect to love. And that third one, it hit during COVID, and I was like, life can be good. Like, we can get good things. Like, it was so
Bill
awesome.
and Ted Face the music. That bonus scene at the end was so good.
It's so good. So I think it's doable, but you got to really believe in the material. And if they get those kids back as adults, like, they've got to really, like, it's got to be perfect. They got to know what they're doing. You can't just phone it in.
Yeah. So you bring up a good point about you have to have a passion for it. If you love it, I think it'll work. We talked about that about Borderlands, how it was obvious that the director and whoever had the final approval of the scripts changes didn't ever play the game.
Yeah.
But you see, Uncharted. I'm not saying Uncharted was a great movie, but it felt like the game.
I liked it. I've never
the
played the game, but I enjoyed the movie a lot.
It was fine.
Yeah.
And so that suffered from origin story-itis, which is when you go to a movie and you see a character you love, but they only become the character you love in the last 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Like he gets his holsters in the last 10 minutes of the movie. Lone Ranger did the same thing, where the Lone Ranger became the Lone Ranger like in the last 10 minutes on top of the train punching people. Yeah, they need to, if you're going to make a movie about a character, make it the character. Don't make us wait 2 hours for it.
I saw this advice on TikTok about hosting a panel, and I can't tell what conference it was at, but it's obviously some kind of professional conference. And it was a clip, but he says, we're almost at the end of the panel. I haven't introduced my panelists, have I? And he goes, that was intentional because you as the audience, I don't know what the topic was, but it sounds like the topic was on how you create audience and tell stories or whatever. He said, you don't just introduce your panelists or your people or your interviewee, you get them to show who they are. And now we trust you because of who you are. And now I want to know what you do. And I think you talk about that origin story, man, if they just did the game Uncharted 2 and just dropped you right into it and then went back either in flashbacks, told the origin story, or don't even tell it. We love Tom Holland and this guy. Let's get a second film. How did he become who he was, or a TV series. But Joe, let's flip it. What classic movie would you like to be remade?
Ooh, a classic that I would like to see remade. That is a really good question. I'm not sure. Well, they're classics for a reason. Because the original is so beloved that
I would dare say most of the OG, the originals that are so beloved are based off of something else or a remake of something else that we just don't realize. But I've got one. Most people don't know about the series, but it's the Road 2 series with Bing Crosby and Bob Hope. And I definitely, and they're great comedies, and they're singing through the whole thing as they do because they're both crooners, and but they're both very good comedians. And it's just these kind of wacky off the wall adventures where they go to Rio and they go to Zanzibar and all these other places, and each movie is its own thing. And they were traveling movies, and it was just fun. Some of it doesn't hold up today. Just so if you go look it up, people, this is in like the 50s and 60s they made these movies, but most of it's pretty funny. And during the 90s, I was like, man, I would love to see Neil Patrick Harris and Nathan Fillion redo those films. Nowadays, I don't know who it would be, but I think it'd be. It is if you're a fan of it, it's a classic film. But if you've never seen it, so that's the other thing, Joe. Our generation sees, like my kids saw Star Wars 1, 2, and 3 before they got to see 4 and 5 and 6, so that was like their films. And like, I should have shown them to you. I didn't watch it. My wife's like, "Oh, here, pick out a DVD," and they picked it out and watched it. Like, you should have shown them 4, 5, 6 first. But that was their start, right? So I don't know. What about you, Vito or Daddy Adams?
Oh man, like what would you want? Because I immediately think like, what's a movie that didn't really quite didn't get the reception,
Okay.
and a remake would help do that. And I just don't have any off the top of my head. I sometimes think back to like, what would an updated version of like Singing in the Rain be? Like going back,
Okay.
like wouldn't that be neat to kind of update that for a new age? Now, granted, that's a classic that I absolutely love, and just spoiler alert, I'm a theater person, so I love singing and tap dancing. But like, bring it back, do something different, create it more modern. I think that would be an interesting take on it, in a way. And I'm assuming we're adapting in these worlds.
What was that one with? I could have told you. I'll try to tell you. He's in the new Blade Runner. He's
Ryan Gosling.
Thank you, Ryan Gosling. L.A. Noir, L.A. something.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. The one where they were like a bunch of gangsters and stuff, right? Is that?
I think so. I mean, they won a ton of awards. I obviously haven't gotten to see it, but I'm wondering if that would fit your Singing in the Rain.
Oh, La La Land.
La La Land. Thank you.
There were no gangsters in La La Land.
La La Land. No, I was mixing that up with. I was mixing that up with the video game L.A. Noire, which is about gangsters that came out at the same time. We went to the same place. Wrongly, but we went to the same place. So have you seen that, Vito? Does that kind of fit what you're talking about? Or
yeah, so I mean, and that actually did a lot, because like, man, I feel like Golden Age was just a lot of musicals that weren't necessarily like, oh, we made a musicals movie, and it kind of like we lose a little bit, and now they're doing a lot of adaptations to stage musicals. Like we're getting Wicked in 2 parts, which who asked for that? Some like Les Mis was whatever. But like, yeah, La La Land kind of like scratched that itch of like a original new age movie musical situation that had like real singing and dancing, and everyone kind of thought about like Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone.
Emma Stone,
yeah. And like what their performances were, but I really enjoyed it as kind of a change of pace from your general movie going. But yeah, this is a good question. Like, what should be remade? Because like you think like, well, I don't want to touch that, but like, would it be interesting to see like a new take on Godfather?
Yeah, I think you could do that one again.
Bring any of the gangster movies from my teenage years in. Casino, Heat, all that stuff. I would love to. We need new. We do. Vito, I'm glad you said that. We need a new era of bad people on screen. That's what we need to see. The Ray Liotta's. We need another generation of Ray Liotta out here, and Harvey Keitel.
Yeah,
I thought of one that I think I would like to see remade, and people can debate whether it's a classic or not, and we'll get to that. But The Last Starfighter.
I was thinking that a minute ago. Yeah, that popped in my head. You could do that way more fun now with more technology. It might actually make it.
Oh yeah, it has such an awesome an awesome premise that I think would resonate really well with today's audience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think like I was sitting here thinking it's not so much a remake, but just franchises that I would like to see live on and readapted just so I get to watch more of them. And the Lethal Weapon franchise immediately popped out to me because I love that dynamic. I love the comedy mixed with the action, mixed with the stuff. And I feel like we get buddy cop stuff sometimes, and we kind of get things that scratch the itch, but like Lethal Weapon itself just had so much going for it. I know they did make the TV series, but it would be cool to Yeah, I've heard that it was all right, but I would love to see just a straight up movie, like put them back together, and make it, even if it wasn't, Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, just that kind of vibe. You call it Lethal Weapon, make it a new thing, give us 2 new cops, and let's go. I think it'd be fun.
Lethal geriatrics.
They're talking about a Lethal Weapon 5, but I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, there's the Red movies that are. I mean, it's not buddy cop, but
they're okay.
Those the first one is really, really good. The second one is all right.
John Malkovich, man.
Give it a few more years, because like things are getting rebooted like that. Evil Dead, right? We went the original Evil Dead was 82, 84, somewhere in there, and it was not meant to be a horror comedy, but it absolutely was a horror comedy. But then 2 years ago, so give it 30 years between the first one and the new first one, and they went horror, and people who love that went nuts over it. And don't go back and look at what it's based off of, because it's 2 different genres, man. But it can be done because you forget about it,
Forget about it.
Going back to that kind of goes with like Charles was kind of touching on it. We're just like not do a sequel, but build something in a universe you created. And like we always say universe, like I'm not talking like MCU extended universe, but like you create a really good story. It's like you can create something in that timeline and keep going. And I keep thinking like, man, the Men in Black, I think they made 3 of them and then a 4th one with 2 brand new characters. It's like that was such a cool concept just for that particular world that you could keep kind of making new things out of that with brand new agents and have brand new storylines and what the aliens are doing. Yes.
The Last Jedi, they should make that. They called it Harry Potter Part 8. They remade that already.
Oh man.
Yeah, Vito. That's what they did with Jurassic Park. My childhood can say I love Jurassic Park. My adulthood could take Jurassic World differently because it's this in-universe kind of story. I'd love them. I'd love somebody to take on the Firefly Serenity universe and tell some more stories. And let's see if it was the characters that we loved so much, or could we really enjoy that world?
Okay.
Yeah.
I would watch that.
But
I love space that's dirty and grungy, and it's the difference between Star Wars and Star Trek, right? In Star Wars, you hit something with a wrench to make it start, and that gives it some appeal. But Star Trek, everything was perfect and worked for the most part. So like Serenity is kind of in that middle space where there was cool, pretty stuff, but there was also like the beat it with a hammer until the engine turns over kind of stuff that was appealing.
Yeah, but they would definitely have to have Mark Gunn's Ravager song on it.